morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. First off, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Veterans Day, particularly those who are currently serving in the armed forces and those who have served. Furthermore, while I realize that Veterans Day is a United States holiday, I also realize that a lot of people watch Beyond the Trailer who don't live in the United States. So I'd like to also give a shout out to everyone across the globe who serves their country and puts their life on the line to protect their fellow citizens. Now let's get on to a huge episode of news. No thanks to Kevin Smith's podcast or webcast for the Man of Steel Blu-ray on Saturday. Now they promised us scoops, and they only gave like the tiniest minuscule non-scoop with Zack Snyder letting drop, he totally wanted to tell everyone that Lex Luthor is definitely going to be in the movie. But I have to say at this point, I think a bigger story was who's not going to be in the movie. We've got Lex, we've got it seems almost definite Wonder Woman will be showing up. Now there are rumors that Nightwing will be there. There's a big Nightwing story we're going to discuss in just a minute though, but also the Flash is going to show up. And as far as the Lex scoop, it was just that he loves to call Superman an alien, which, as we all know from the comics, Lex Luthor likes to play up Superman's alien origins, that he's an outside threat, and also, as Lex feels, has an unfair advantage competition-wise with humanity. And then also, they also said that they will be dealing with the fact of how Superman killed General Zod and how, I think, by extension, the battle in Metropolis. I think that's a huge elephant in the room. I think even the fans, myself included, we've all said that this needs to be addressed in Man of Steel 2 because there was widespread destruction and death, very heavily implied. A number of people who live in Metropolis, or Metropolitans, I guess, lost their lives that day. And we all feel that it would be a great way to make Lex Luthor not a black and white villain, but more in the gray area, where you can see where he's coming from. I personally will be on Team Lex, I think, especially if they can get a great actor to play him. I think he could be made for a great villain. But how much screen time is he going to have? So actually, before I get into the Nightwing news, I also want to say, from what I'm seeing how this is shaping up, I think they're going to do kind of a reverse perspective of the first Justice League story in the New 52. That's where all these superheroes kind of come together for the first time to create the Justice League, and then they all go and they find Superman to bring him into the fold. And there's the, their supposedly classic line of Superman, cornering Batman and saying, "What can you do?" I say supposedly because I don't really think these New 52 stories are sticking as canon or as legendary classic tales, even though as much as DC would like to see that happen. So this new Justice League War movie, I think that's kind of what they're going to do if you don't read comics and just watch the animated shows. I think they're going to do that storyline, but they're going to flip it. And instead of showing the perspective of everyone coming together and then going to approach Superman, I think they're probably going to show it from Superman's side and having these people come to him. So that's what I think we're going to get. I think that's the storyline, and that's kind of like their back door into a Justice League movie, introducing them that way. Now, on to the Nightwing news. Why Nightwing is here? He's not in the Justice League. They are saying, though, that he will be Batman's former partner. They will be estranged. They're going to maybe Superman will come to him for help in dealing with Batman. So that might also imply at least at first a contentious relationship between the two of them. But here's the news. It was actually given to me. I want to give credit where credit is due. Charles David Haskell wrote me on Facebook about this story that appeared on The Wrap, that Adam Driver from Girls, who plays Hannah's on-again, off-again boyfriend, is the top contender. And Charles David Haskell felt, I want JGL, I want Joseph Gordon-Levitt to play this role. And I would have been with you, Charles, except for the fact that it's Adam Driver, who I think is a fantastic actor. He's very, very good on that show. He's very charismatic. Warner Brothers, apparently, he's coming up in some of their films. They've seen the dailies. They love him. They want to groom him to be one of their in-house stars. So, just like they have their in-house directors, and Ben Affleck is a Warner Brothers talent. They feel they have a star here, a potential star in Adam Driver. I would agree with them. I think, as I said, he's very charismatic. He's also a former Marine. So I think that's a great aspect to bring to playing Nightwing. I think he has a very deep voice. I think he's very tall, apparently, just about an inch shorter than Ben Affleck. So I think you could really create a great Nightwing here. So that's very exciting to me. I think this is great casting news. It's some of the best casting news I've seen for a comic book movie recently. And I'm very excited for that. And I also am a little worried for Girls, because I don't know if he'll continue to do that show if Warner Brothers is starting to get him so many movies. And I think he's a big part of why Girls is successful. Of course, Lena Dunham does a great job with that show, I feel. I think she offers a very unique perspective on a new generation of women. But I think that his character it brings a lot to the show. So I don't know if you might not want to watch Girls. I think it's really for a female audience. I think a lot of guys would be like, what am I watching? So you can check him out in some other things. I think, for instance, he has if you saw Inside Llewyn Davis, he has a very, very small part as the guy who does the song with Justin Timberlake. He's doing like the funny background 1960s kind of sounds. And also, if you saw Lincoln, he was the guy in the telegram office who tells Lincoln, I think about fate, and they're discussing that when Lincoln's like deciding to send a telegram as to what to do about meeting with the South. So he's had bit roles, and this would be huge for him. I'm very excited about this. This is as I said, some of the best casting news I've heard in a while. Great idea. Love Adam Driver. Go check him out. I think you will also think that he would make a great Nightwing. All right, so the second story of the day, some of you have also been bringing to my attention. I saw this go up on Friday. They are considering a Hunger Games theme park. Lionsgate apparently has been made offers, and they're not sure if this is the right move for them, but there's so much money on the table, they are mulling it over. Now, this is a new trend, trying to create these immersive experiences. Of course, Harry Potter, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, made this really seem plausible because it's just so incredibly successful. So that's really where this is all coming from. And of course, Disney, in their response to the fact that the Wizarding World of Harry Potter pulls away a lot of their business, actually, or enough to make a dent in their bottom line, that's why their response is this Pandora Avatar world they're opening in Animal Kingdom. Disney's also announced that they're going to be doing much more Star Wars rides as well to increase the Star Wars presence in California and Orlando and across the globe. They have some restrictions with what they can do with Marvel, but I think you're going to be seeing all of the big Disney brands show up in their theme parks because that's why they paid for them partially. But as for a Hunger Games theme park, my sister said, what, is everyone going to have to kill all the other guests? And at first you laugh, but there are just so many shootings recently in the news. There was even one this weekend in Bryant Park at the ice skating rink on Saturday night, which is really, really hits close to home as a New Yorker. And it's just very tragic. And so I don't really know if, an arena where that's supposed to happen. I mean, the Hunger Games has a death element to it. I think it makes it, hopefully tries to make it more sophisticated. I think you can argue as to whether or not the films succeed. I think this new one looks like it's going to do a better job with that darker edge. But, a political death-rigged, so there's no Battle Royale theme park that I know of. So I think this is a very tricky thing to do, and I can see why Lionsgate is having to think it over. But I think that a lot of people would go, and you could obviously have lunch in the Capitol, you could go and visit all the crappy districts, and I think people would go. Now, I don't think they're going to have their own theme park. I think because there are offers, I would expect it to go in someplace else. And this might even be Universal reaching out to try and do something like they did with Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which is so successful, and give themselves another big land. So imagine Harry Potter on one side of the park, Hunger Games on the other side. That would be fascinating. And also, I'd be curious to know if you guys think that Hunger Games is going to last beyond its 4 films. Mockingjay split into 2. If you think this is a franchise for the ages, or do you think it'll be done? Because, Avatar has some more movies coming out which can feed into the theme park. Star Wars, of course, is eternal. And Harry Potter is trying, they're having another movie come out. They're keeping that going. All right, so that's the second story of the day. The third story, yes, I really like this story. Justin Lin, for Universal, he revived their Fast and Furious franchise. He made it a big hit. They are keeping him in-house. And just like Warner Brothers has their talent, Universal is keeping theirs. And they are giving him the Bourne franchise. I think this is fascinating. This is a great way to go with this. Tony Gilroy, I don't know if Tony Gilroy would be staying on with screenwriting, but I think Justin Lin has a very different feel than somewhat the more intellectual, very political. Paul Greengrass was the director on 2 of the films. Doug Liman did the first one. So you kind of, those guys have more of a little intellectual action thriller. Justin Lin, I think he's a very talented guy, but he has more of, I think, a street vibe from the Fast and Furious films, obviously. Now, and that's where he came from. Also, his breakthrough film. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it might be Better Luck Tomorrow, but don't hold me to it. He specializes in that kind of life on the street, friends, gang kind of structure. And that's not, what the Bourne movies are. So it'll be interesting to see if Justin Lin changes his style or if they change the franchise to match him. Now, there's no word if Matt Damon is returning yet. I know Matt Damon wants to return. We've seen that story that he would love to team up with Jeremy Renner, but so far only Jeremy Renner is confirmed to come back. But I'd also be interested to see if Justin Lin maybe brings in a little more diversity to the franchise, because that's something else I want to touch on. We're really seeing a lot of very successful Asian talent behind the camera. You have Justin Lin, who did the Fast and Furious films. Now he's getting the Bourne franchise. John Chu did a fantastic job with G.I. Joe. Well, I don't know, you could argue how fantastic the film is, but box office-wise, he's really delivered for, I believe, Paramount, so they like him a lot. He's big over there. And of course, James Wan has been upgraded from his horror films. He made The Conjuring, considered by many one of the best horror films in a long time, and he's taking over Fast and Furious. So with all this Asian talent behind the camera, I think it'll be interesting at what point, and I think they're getting close because these guys are so successful, that they're going to start trying to put some more diversity in front of the camera. Of course, Justin Lin did that. He brought his actor in to play Han from his first film, which was fantastic. I love that guy so much. I feel bad that he's not in the franchise anymore. So that worked, but that was a very small role. I'm talking about bringing in Asian talent in front of the camera in either a lead role, a co-lead role, or a major solid supporting role. So maybe we'll see that in the Bourne franchise. Maybe we'll see some fellow spies from China or South Korea that could easily play into the context here. So I think these guys are doing great. I think that I'm not saying they should only make films for Asian audiences, but I think it would be nice to see them pay it forward a little bit because they're becoming in such positions of power. Why not? Why not try and add that? I think that'd be wonderful. All right, so those are the 3 stories of the day. The viewer question comes from Hex Pony, and it plays into the first story because it's about Ben Affleck. And so the question is, "Hi Grace, I have no idea why Daredevil can't work in movies, but I think he'll work on Netflix. And I don't know. Well, that's a whole other question. That's not the main question here." Hex Pony says, "But personally, I liked Ben Affleck's version. But my question is, if that movie was so bad, and many people think it was, why did Affleck get another superhero role?" Excellent question, Hex Pony. I would say that he never would have gotten another superhero role if it wasn't for the work he'd done to repair his image. With directing films going behind the camera, he had Gone Baby Gone, he had The Town, and then of course Argo. Argo was a Best Picture winner, a huge amount of goodwill for Ben Affleck, both in the industry and with audiences because of that film, particularly when he was snubbed for a directing nomination by the Academy. I feel that did wonders for his career, actually. I think he's better off than if he'd gotten the nomination for director. I think that Argo might not have won, actually. So that's why I think he's getting this role. I think that he's done such an image makeover and gotten so much credibility with fanboys, with that crucial audience that DC needs for their movies. That's why he got another superhero role. If Ben Affleck hadn't done the work, I think he would not have gotten another one. But I think because he wasn't involved in Daredevil creatively behind the camera as a writer or a producer or a director, they can very easily say to themselves, well, you know what, that was what Ben Affleck how does he turn down a superhero role? He was on his way up. He was coming off of films like Armageddon. He just took what he could get. It seemed good on paper, and then he was let down by the material. And that might very well be true. We'll see. I told you, when I saw Runner, suddenly I was like, I think this guy can do it. I think he can be Batman. And I still do feel that way. I'm actually kind of getting excited for Ben Affleck's Batman, and this might be another exciting chapter in the redemption of Ben Affleck. But it's all his own doing, which makes it even more commendable that this wasn't someone, he didn't get a new manager or a new agent to give him, to do it for him. Ben Affleck turned his own career around and is now Batman. So great comeback story. Phenomenal comeback story. So that's what I think happened. All right, so that's today's episode. So much great movie news. How can the rest of the week possibly live up to that? We'll have to wait and see. And I hope you'll check out these other videos right now.